$5,000 towards towable generators and generators for backup power, and up to $2,000 for propane building heat systems. To take advantage of all the ways propane is better for your bottom line, start your application today at propane.com/PFRP.
Now there's one web portal for local agriculture radio programming in Central Illinois.
IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Local farm programming streamed live and archived to hear anytime.
IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Hear the morning and noon farm shows with local agriculture news and interviews.
IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
Plus, hear all of your favorite agriculture farm shows, including RFD Illinois, AgriTalk, RFD Today, and the Closing Market Report.
IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
It's agriculture grown locally, streamed live, and archived to hear anytime.
IllinoisFarmRadio.com.
A service of the Miller Media Group.
This is the voice of the Eastern Illinois University Panthers, Mike Brad, inviting all of our fans from Peoria to the Indiana state line to listen for Panther football again this fall on WHOW's many platforms on AM, FM, and streamed online. EIU Panther football is part of WHOW's great weekend sports programming schedule, including a Best of Clinton Maroon sports broadcast and CBS Sports Radio. We'll bring you every Panther game start to finish right here on Central Illinois' news, agriculture, and sports station, WHOW.
Scott Baum here from Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton. Search our big selection of pre-owned cars and trucks by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
DeWittDailyNews.com is the area's leading local news source 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Get the latest local news, obituaries, police blotter, weather forecast, and more with no paywall. Head to DeWittDailyNews.com to get the local information you need to know.
Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio this morning is DeWitt County Board Chair Joe Witte as we follow up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. Good morning, Mr. Witte. How are you? Thanks for coming out and talking with us. Always good to have you on the program. And let's dive into Mr. Witte. First of all, a light agenda from, I shouldn't say a light agenda. There was a lot on it, but it was a short meeting, really moved through things quickly. A lot of it around solar. So let's get an update on the solar process, where things stand with some of these hearings, these proposed projects, and then we'll dive into stuff on the agenda. So how about that?
Mm-hmm. And now they're in the next phase where they're going to start preparing packets for building permits and get some agreements in for engineering. So that's kind of what's coming up for us, is more the second phase of that, since the siting permits have been awarded. But there's still obviously the opportunity that others could come in. We know that there's one out near Farmer City. Looking at a packet to submit, but whether or not they're going to move forward with that or not at this point, we don't know.
Sure. Yeah. So now walk us through the process, because I know this has changed since all the wind stuff came through. The county board is taking on these the permit hearings. Is that what this is? Mm-hmm.
With our ordinances, with state statutes.
Mm-hmm.
From there, it would have gone on to the ZBA. That's where the public could provide evidence for or in favor or against
mm-hmm.
the application, and then they would have made a recommendation to the board based on what we call the LaSalle factors.
Mm-hmm.
Does it benefit the community? Is there harm? There's a list of factors that they weigh it against. And then they would make their recommendation to the board, who would ultimately have the decision. And that process still exists for many of our special uses. But when the statute, 2022, 23, when that came out of Illinois, where they...
I want to say it was 21 even.
It might have been.
I know time is just strung together.
We had to look at this. We had a much tighter time frame, and we decision, and so we opted for what we call a citing permit hearing, and that means we just basically bypass the Regional Planning Commission and the zoning board. It goes straight to the board. They conduct the hearing, and we don't have. I mean, you could argue, do we have the LaSalle factors considered any longer with the state statute? And I think some of us are on the impression that no, really, it's just do they meet the requirements? So, it should be a simpler process. We've conducted those hearings in a single night. The board conducts the hearing, we take the evidence, and we make a decision from there. So it's I would say probably more abbreviated process, but you're still looking at an awful lot of information.
And it's coming at you all at once.
And that's the thing. That's part of the frustration that maybe we might heard in land use is when this came out. It seemed to be a statute that was derived based on the wind and solar companies going to the state with their request. It just looked like it had everything that they might want on their wish list, and that was all signed by the governor and the statute. So the frustration was they didn't consider the impact of the counties, especially when it comes to the time frame. It seems reasonable. If you get an application, you should be able to process that in a couple of months. What if you get 4? And you've got 4 massive applications and a lot of information to get through. There just didn't seem to be much consideration for the impacts to those who do processing these. So we managed, and we're hoping that there's not another rush like that.
How long are these meetings you're sitting through?
It depends. It depends on how many people come to present evidence in addition to the application. Obviously, the applicant, it's their job to defend their application, provide evidence to support that they met all the requirements. But then anybody in the public also has that same right to weigh in. We had some where nobody weighed in, others where we had a few that had some questions and cross-examined the applicant. But I think we were able to get them mostly completed in one night. One of them we adjourned and then picked up a week later just for the decision. They've gone more quickly.
Yeah. Well,
winded several years back.
Yeah. Well, and weigh in with this because you have to hear all of these applications in a certain amount of time, right? This isn't like you can, take one this month, take one next month, and the month after and the month after. These have a certain time frame they got to fall in, right?
They want to make it even tighter.
Tell that farmer that's on the county board they've got to come to all these meetings in the middle of harvest and all that stuff. So
that you've got to get through. That's you need to do your due diligence and get through those before the meeting. So come prepared with questions and make sure that everything's the same. So it's a lot. We managed. Obviously, we would have preferred to have a little bit more time, but we followed the requirements of the statute. We got through what I think was hopefully the only rush like this that we're going to see.
And why the rush?
I suspect it has to do with tax credits at the federal level and a lot of them trying to get their projects started. They have to invest, I think a certain percentage by it's the end of this year. But
excuse me.
Obviously this goes beyond it. It is not a DeWitt County issue. I think this is just solar development in general and what's happening at the federal level with the tax credits.
Sure. Very good. So hopefully the rush of those are over. All right. So let's dive into, again, Joe Witte, DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest in studio this morning. We follow up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. So let's dive into, Mr. Witte, some of the things that came up last night as it relates to the solar. Let's start with, I'm going through, you approved the minutes from the hearings. That's pretty standard. Let's dive into, is the Chastain and Associates, was that part of the solar?
Learned from the wind hearing years ago that when you are staffed for being able to manage the day-to-day business in the county, and then you get a very large project like that, we need some help. We have a provision in our ordinance that when we get to the point, we're past the siting hearing now.
Mm-hmm.
When we get to the time where we have to look at the building permits, start reviewing those for completeness, that doesn't go to the board. That's just the zoning office. And so we have a provision where we can engage the services of an engineer to assist the zoning administrator and then be on site for a lot of the construction activities and make sure things are being constructed. So
Now you did this during during wind, right?
we did.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, we have it where it's more clear that we can engage that engineering firm.
Mm-hmm.
It's at the cost of the applicant. We're not going to eat that cost because they can get expensive when you're dealing with these projects. So in preparation for this rush now that we're expecting, not for the board but for the zoning office, they're going to have these building permits coming in the near future. We need to get some engineering firms lined up to assist with the review of that, as well as the on-site construction. So
Got it.
4 different applications that were approved. Now we're going to have probably 4 different packets of building permits in the coming months. And this
Is that a lot to go through?
It can be. Again, in many cases, what was approved for the siting hearing, you got to make sure that what they're actually submitting for the building permit syncs up with what was approved with the permit, the siting permit to begin with, and then the on-site construction, meeting all the construction standards and things like that. That's we don't have somebody who has the expertise to go out there and monitor. So we'll be getting reports back, but getting that firm engaged. I think last night it was Chastain, but what was missing, I felt, from that agreement was the building permit review side of that agreement.
And you want them to go over that?
To make sure that they get. We want to be clear that when we sign the agreement, that it's not only for the construction operation, but also for the building permit review, because technically they're being engaged from both parts of that.
Yeah.
We'll bring that back next month, hopefully, and have some clarification.
So you tabled that?
I actually didn't even bring it forward just because of
Oh, okay. Got it. Talk to me about the permitting and the road agreements and all of this for those. How about that? Is that pretty similar to what is going on there?
One other item that we discussed that probably unrelated to those that have already been approved, Santa Ana, the Farmer City solar farm.
Yeah. What's going on there?
In our ordinance, we talked about having a road use agreement with all the affected road districts, or the townships if they're impacted, and they submitted their road use agreement a couple months ago.
And what's in those?
It talks about weight limits. If there's damage to the roads, they're responsible. There's quite a bit in there. And
does it give them access to certain roads and not others?
Which ones that they are, if they deviate from the route that they're permitted to, what those penalties may be. It's they've been pretty standard. We approved for them for the other applications, and this is one that they submitted an application or a road use agreement, but there's no application yet. So I think the little bit of discussion we had on this item last night was, can't they just submit this if they move forward with an application? I don't know if technically they can, but what we've done in the past is we've approved the road use agreements before they get to submitting an application. So it's standard. It's a standard road use agreement. We went ahead and approved that last night. Doesn't mean that they're going to move forward with their project, but
it's kind of one of those building blocks you have to have in place.
You've got to have in place at some point.
Yeah.
Historically, we've requested that with the executed agreement with the packet that they submit for the siting hearing.
Okay. Okay, so now back to the Santa Ana project again. Okay, got it. So even if that project is not approved, you need that in, that's kind of getting. If
they decide not to move forward,
then it's just null and void.
Okay. If they decide to move forward,
yeah. Now some contention over that one because again, it kind of goes back to is the board authorized to say yes to this while they are saying no to this? And then, of course, are they allowed to say no to the project? All those things. So how about that?
It's a good question, and I'm no lawyer.
I believe that's why you have a state's attorney, if I'm not mistaken.
He's got his expertise. His opinion is that the statute indicates that the 1.5 mile, basically area around a municipality, they have zoning jurisdiction when it comes to wind. The statute doesn't clearly, and I don't think it does at all, give that same 1.5 mile setback for solar. And again, I think we talked last month. I'm not sure if that was an oversight when they, basically threw solar in last minute. It's hard to figure out what the mindset was when that went through. So,
you can say that about a lot of things, Mr. Witte.
I think some are saying, well, if Farmer City doesn't want this, they've sent in a letter of objection. Does that mean that they are unable, they being the applicant, would be unable to meet the requirements that we say, they should have the agreement with the municipality? And I think if we got another opportunity to kind of reread that statute, I think some of us are falling on the side of, well, maybe we don't have the authority. So, Mr. Markwell has weighed in. I think if you look at the text on paper, it doesn't look like we could reject an application simply because they're coming in without the approval of the municipality. But that's state statute and what we are allowed to do from a county perspective. I think municipalities might have slightly different interpretation, and I guess they could present a legal argument otherwise. But at this point, we don't have an application, so we don't have to deal with that issue. But if we decide to move forward, we're going to have to take our state's attorney's legal advice, and I guess if there's other legal opinions out there, it'd be interesting to hear them.
Very good. Well, on that note, Mr. Witte, a lot to consider. Let's break here. Come back with some more. Joe Witte, DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest in studio, following up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting. More to come on the morning show.
WHOW.
Let's check the opening numbers now at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday. Jim Taylor, RFD Radio Network. A steady start with corn, beans, and Chicago wheat. December corn opening $4.25, up 1 1/4. March corn up 1 1/4, $4.42 3/4, and May corn $4.52, up 1/2 penny. November beans starting the day $10.40, up 2 3/4. January beans up 3 1/4, $10.59 3/4. March beans $10.74 3/4, up 3 1/4. December Chicago wheat opening $5.23 1/4, down a penny. March wheat down a penny, $5.41 1/2. May wheat $5.52 3/4, down 1 1/4. October bean meal $2.8460, up $1.60. October bean oil $50.29, down 28 cents. Looking at the opening numbers at the Chicago Board of Trade on this Friday morning, I'm Jim Taylor, and you're listening to the RFD Radio Network.
Selection for a new Chevrolet is here at Baum Chevrolet Buick in Clinton and Farmer City. This is Scott Baum. Yes, from the Corvettes to the Suburbans and everything to help your family or business, Chevrolet has value options for your needs. This month, see our Silverado trucks in 1500, 2500, and 3500s in gas or diesel. Our Silverados have big savings with more discounts if you trade yours in. Chevrolet, together let's drive. BaumChevyBuick.com, right from the start.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio today is Joe Witte. He's the DeWitt County Board Chair. Following up the Thursday night DeWitt County Board meeting, again, we mentioned, Mr. Witte, not a robust, it was a robust agenda, but you moved through things pretty quick. Not a lot of, contention, I guess, with some of these things. So, Yeah, for sure. Hey, you and me both, brother. All right, let's dive into. I want to ask about $60,000 for DCDC economic development. How about this?
DCDC, Kurt Holman approached the board a little over a year ago, just looking for not only DeWitt County, but Clinton, Farmer City, stepping back up like we had done years ago with helping with the funding. Obviously, they've been able to manage over the last several years with private donors and things like that. But if we expect them to be able to do more, we've got to step up with some funding. And so when we sold the marina, we allocated a lot of the proceeds, or a good chunk of the proceeds, to economic development. Let's get back into the funding with the DCDC so that we can essentially do our part to help spur economic development. Obviously, they've done a lot of great things the last couple of years, at least. Starting to see some of the fruits of their labor.
I was going to say, he's done a whole lot the last year or so.
Well, and the thing is, that doesn't just happen, right? There's a lot of things that I know that Kurt's doing behind the scenes, putting in a lot of hours, and if we want economic development to really flourish in our area, we've got to step up from a county's perspective, Clinton and Farmer City as well, and just make sure that they have the resources they need to be able to do that. So we, like I said, we allocated some money to economic development. We committed $60,000 for the fiscal year. I'd like to see that continue. So we've got we've got the new budget coming up, and again, my intention would be that 60,000 is something that we continue, and I would hope that we're going to continue to see a lot of good things on DCDC. So this is really just the county's commitment to them. They've been the partner that we've had to when we need something done from advertising or something like that. We've got them to engage. They're doing a great job. So this is just kind of standing up on our commitment, and hopefully be able to continue that for the future.
Very good. Tell me a little bit about, I know Mr. Mathon gave an update on the highway department situation. It sounds like good news on that front. What's going on?
We've gotten to the point where the state has, the MFD is no longer frozen. There's still a couple of, I think there's one last item, one last signature that they need that's going to get submitted, and then we are all caught up. So, the money, isn't now available to the townships again. Projects that are being.
I was going to say, I noticed some oil and chip work done in some rural roads. Yeah.
Just get the last couple of items, or last single paper, I think that needs to be submitted, get that done, and should be in the clear. Look at, there's a couple other items for some additional projects that are coming up. We've got the rail guard project countywide. That's some upgrades there, so that's on the agenda. We talked a little bit about it. Busy time for the road and bridge.
No doubt. All right, well, let's wrap it up, Mr. Witte. I got about a minute and a half with you here real fast. Ethics committee, the IT compliance ad hoc committees, a lot of things going on. Let's get a breakdown quickly of those.
Some recommendations. Things move slower than what we would like. When you start getting into the IT infrastructure and all the needs that we have, we've come out with some recommendations. We're looking at maybe bringing on an employee to help full time at the county, but then we still got to figure out. Well, that was a 1 year committee, so we're looking at potentially extending that for another year. May become permanent. Ethics, we've had an ethics committee defined in our ordinance for some time, but we've just never populated. That was born out of statute. So we also had some appointments last night to get that up and running. Not that we ever want to use them, but in the event that we need them, we've got the people assigned and are ready to roll.
Very good. Well, Mr. Witte, what's coming up next month? Anything on the horizon?
We have a lot of work been going on with the budget. We should have at the next board meeting. I'm hoping that we'll have our final proposed budget to put on the website. So lot of work going into that still, but we should finalize that here in the coming weeks and then be ready to post that at the end of the month.
Mr. Witte, always good to talk to you, my friend. Good to see you as always. Joe Witte, DeWitt County Board Chair, our guest. Network News on the way.